What's up, everybody? Today is super exciting because I have one of the best looking, most realistic RC cars we've had right here. It's a Ford F-250 Highboy, and it's tiny. You'd think you lose scale when you go super small, but this thing, it'll blow your mind how realistic it is. All right, so how did we get here? We got here with mini crawlers, thank you, Axial, and their SCX24. It allowed us to crawl indoors, it allowed us to crawl on a budget, and it just kind of blew up the hobby and really allowed new players to come in, $100, and you're hobbying. All right, and then, other companies, FMS, got a little more scale, and the company Axial again mixed it up in December and had this SCX24 124 scale SCX30 right here, and it really opened up the eyes of our builder Randy, because he said, oh, SCX30 130 scale, that gets close to the wheelbases of the scalar cars, the scalar model world, and that is there's thousands of cars. We're talking dozens of companies, thousands of cars in that world. And what they focus on is just realistic, perfect wheelbase vehicles, but they don't move. So he said, it's been a dream of his to make these things move, remote control. And, he started playing with this guy right here. So this one, he saw the wheelbase of the FMS Land Rover. And I have a full video on this. And this is a body by a company called AMT. AMT, you can buy them at Amazon or their own site. And it's a hard body. Look at that deep bed, but really next level. I mean, compare these two guys and you see the difference in what we're talking about. All right. And then with this SCX30, the next project was to put a AMT Scout 2 body on the SCX30. And this is cool, no doubt. But he just plopped in a Scout 2 with interior. This is next level. And we have a whole video on this guy too. All right, but going to the subject of our video right here, I did a YouTube short and everyone's like, wow, blown away. Give us a full video. And here we go. So this is while he did the SCX30 Scout 2 project, he discovered, Orlandoo's got some nice stuff and the tires fit. And so he said, hey, there's a body I'm interested in, this Ford F-250 Highboy, 1968 to 1972 by Mobius, that has a similar wheelbase to the Orlandoo Hunter. And the model is the OH32 M01, which is a military truck. And he said he took the parts, the drivetrain out of that guy and put it on the model. And at its raw form, he just bolted those parts in to the model. Always more complicated than the plan, but it surprised him how well it worked out. So this is what we got. And we have a motor from ESC receiver from Furitek. Didn't go brushless, first brush, but you will be blown away by the performance of this guy. All right, so look at this. So Mobius chassis. He didn't have to lengthen it. He just bolted on the parts from Orlandoo. And then he could have magnet mounted the whole thing, but he chose to just bolt on the body into the chassis. But he did magnet mount the hood, because the hood is where the magic is. That's where the battery is. That's where your receiver is. That's how he turned it on. And then boom, look at that. All magnets. And just a very satisfying fit and click. Just genius. All right. And the other really, really cool thing is leaf springs on this vehicle. So when we get to the underside is when the world opens up. You're like, whoa, what is this? This chassis right here. You got a muffler, you got leaf spring. To have leaf springs on something this small is insane. And I think you guys will agree. There's also a shock with a little spring, so you can adjust ride height. But look at this ride height. Look at that. Look at that sag, and you'll see this thing perform. All right. So let me run it right here, and then I'll tell you two things: what surprised us, what surprised Randy while he was building it, and also, what future directions can you take this thing? How can you go, to how can you crank it up to 11 when you're scaling? Here we go. Look at that servo. The speed is very good. It's got good torque and good steering angle. And right here, pretty cool brushed motor from Orlandoo with a gearbox that's attached to the motor, and it's got good crawling ability, pretty good speed. No need for us to go process on this because it got a little bit of punch, got some good modulation, works really well. So what's really cool here, what you should notice, is just it kind of looks like a real vehicle or a 10 scale vehicle, and the fact that it's so tiny, 1/24th, and it's got very good realism in action, that's something really to take note. It's got enough detail. It doesn't look micro, it just looks normal. So yeah, no damping on this, so just a tiny bit of bounce and jiggle. I'm sure we can put some grease in the shocks, slow it down a little bit, but all right, so what surprised our builder Randy? One was the fact that it fit. The Orlandoo was 1/34th, and the actual model is 1/24th, but it all kind of worked. So it's always surprising. The steering angle on this thing is crazy. Orlandoo did a good job. They have a really powerful servo. He was able to merge the wheels together because they're pretty much the same size. So the Orlandoo wheel is what he used, but he needed the center, the hubcap of the Mobius because it was so realistic. And what he did to merge them together, he just put a little magnet on it. Right there. And you still have your wheel nut to keep that thing in place, but to put it on and retain it, it's just a little magnet. Another satisfying click. All right, and finally, just the underside. The underside of this thing, you just don't even see this on 1/10 scale or 1/7 scale vehicles, how realistic it is. And the leaf springs, those tiny leaves, the shocks, it's just mind-blowing how this thing worked out. All right, and the last part is future direction. What if you want to level up and really up your game on this realism of this scale, which is crazy because we were used to not very realistic, and now this thing is much more realistic than even my 10 scale vehicles. And the budget is not as bad. I have a D1 RC that's like $1,200. This thing gonna cost you a lot less. All right, so where you can take it, accessories are very rich. You're now entering an ecosystem of scale models, and you have a lot of drivers, you have a lot of accessories that are just next level. So you can just go there. Next thing is the engine bay. There's room in the engine bay if you move stuff around properly. You can 3D print your own engine cover that looks like what's accurate for this guy right here. Obviously, you can have a driver and the whole family working on the farm, and they all fit because this interior is so deep, and the bed is insane. You should really put some stuff in the bed. You can have lighting. We have lenses here. You can just drill some holes and put some lights. Even Orlandoo has them. You can have some sound if you want. And then the other thing is you can even go more realistic. Orlandoo has IFS, so you could have IFS suspension on this guy right here. So hope you guys are intrigued, and our intention is really to to open eyes, to challenge you guys. This is what this microcrawler scene really opens up. You know, it puts the wheelbases in line with the scale modeler world, and now, you know, you have a lot more bodies to work with, you know, for the fun and the realism.